inside a giant high-budget machine.
NFL, dude, you had that. I don't even want to say the faggot's name because, like, it's just like, what? Somebody give me his name. Dude, come say his name. I don't want to say it. You know what I'm talking about, the halftime show guy, the Puerto Rican, right? Puerto Rican?
Bad Bunny?
Bro, yeah, that fucking faggot. Like, dude, it is so crazy that this is America now. Like, back in the day, dude, the NFL was the fucking standard of being a fucking man.
A massive UFC fighter jumped online and went off on a loud, ugly rant about Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show, and he got almost every fact wrong. The internet didn't let it slide either. They corrected him in real time, clip by clip, post by post. And trust me, watching that meltdown unfold was way more satisfying than anyone expected. On February 8th, 2026, at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California, Bad Bunny stepped onto that stage and made history.
And now every fucking year, the NFL, I think they all get together around a table and say, you know what, guys? How do we fucking ruin this sport? How do we gay it up? How do we fucking ruin it? Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we bring a gay foreigner who doesn't speak fucking English and have him perform it? Like, get the fuck, and then you have like, yeah, dude, it's like, the NFL is like fucking pathetic these days. So even like the NFL players can probably hate it. Yeah, no. NFL's gay. I think we'd all agree the NFL got real gay.
He became the first Latino solo artist to headline the halftime show almost entirely in Spanish, and he did it without watering anything down. Then came the surprises. Lady Gaga popped out. Ricky Martin hit the stage. At one point, there was an actual wedding in the middle of the performance. Yes, a real one. And somehow, 380 people were dressed as grass, which sounds fake, but it's completely true and still hilarious.
Anyways, you might not know these, but I'm doing the Super Bowl halftime show. Very happy. I'm very happy, and I think everyone is happy about it. Even Fox News. And if you didn't understand what I just said, you have 4 months to learn.
128.2 million viewers tuned in, making it the fourth most watched halftime show ever. Only Kendrick Lamar's 2025 record breaker, Michael Jackson in 1993, and Usher in 2024 ranked higher. The Spanish-language broadcast alone peaked at 4.8 million viewers, the highest ever for a Super Bowl halftime show on Spanish television. That wasn't just a performance. That was a cultural moment. Social media exploded in a way the NFL had never seen before. The halftime show pulled in 4 billion views in just 24 hours, a 137% jump compared to the year before. That's not hype. That's raw data. His album De Tiara Moss photos moved 250,000 units the following week, up 191% from the week before and the biggest sales week of his entire career. Apple Music reported his streams shot up to 7 times his normal rate right after the performance ended. Every metric said the same thing. This wasn't just big, it was dominant. And that's exactly why what happened next feels so ridiculous. About 10 days later, at a UFC Fight Night Media Day in Houston, ahead of his bout with Anthony Hernandez, Sean Strickland randomly launched into a rant that nobody asked for. No one mentioned Bad Bunny. No one asked about the NFL. No one brought up the halftime show. He just grabbed the mic and started swinging at the air. Then it got awkward fast. Strickland said, "Look at the NFL, dude. I don't even want to say the EFS name because it's just like air. Somebody give me his name." He was mid-rant and didn't even know the name of the artist he was attacking. He literally had to ask a reporter in the room to tell him who he was mad at. That's when the internet knew this was about to get messy. Once someone finally said, "Bad Bunny," Strickland doubled down instead of backing off. He went on a heated rant, claiming the NFL used to be the standard of being a man. And now, every year, they supposedly sit around asking, how do we ruin this sport? He kept pushing the idea that bringing in an artist who performs in Spanish somehow ruined football. Then he wrapped it up by saying the league had become pathetic and repeating that the NFL had got real gay lately. That wasn't a slip. That was the tone the whole time. And here's where it completely falls apart. The biggest and most embarrassing mistake in that entire outburst is simple. It's basic facts. Bad Bunny is Puerto Rican. Puerto Rico is a United States territory. That means Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio is an American citizen by birth. Calling him a foreigner, an immigrant, or someone who doesn't belong isn't just disrespectful. It's flat out wrong. This wasn't some deep political debate. It was someone loudly criticizing a performance while not even knowing the most basic information about the artist. Once that one fact is corrected, the whole rant crumbles instantly. And that's exactly why the backlash hit so fast. Because when your argument is built on something that easy to disprove, the internet doesn't need long to respond. Strickland built his whole argument on a claim he never even checked. He went after a performer whose name he didn't know and whose background he clearly didn't understand. And just to make this crystal clear, Bad Bunny speaks English. Performing in Spanish was a choice. It was a celebration of his culture and a nod to more than 70 million Latino Americans the NFL acknowledged by putting him on that stage. That context never seemed to enter Strickland's thinking. And this is where the situation shifts from one bad opinion to something bigger. Sean Strickland is a 30-7 UFC middleweight fighter who briefly held the title. In September 2023, he shocked the world by upsetting Israel Adesanya and grabbing the belt. Then in January 2024, he lost it to Dricus du Plessis. The rematch in February 2025? Another loss to du Plessis. Heading into Houston to face Anthony Hernandez, he was carrying 2 straight title defeats on his record. And that matters when you look at the intensity he brought to that media day. There's also real history behind him. Strickland has spoken openly about a rough childhood that shaped his personality and how he presents himself publicly. That background explains some of the edge, but it doesn't excuse launching into a rant built on facts that don't hold up. Strickland has been open about his past. He grew up with a father he describes as physically and mentally abusive, and those experiences left real scars. During his teenage years, he has said his grandfather exposed him to neo-Nazi ideology, which added another heavy layer to an already unstable environment. He was expelled from school in 9th grade after committing a crime. According to Strickland himself, his mother taking him to an MMA gym is what helped redirect his life and give him structure. None of that background excuses reckless public behavior, but it does help explain why, at 34 years old, he can still sound like someone whose worldview formed in his teens and never fully evolved. That context matters when you look at what happened next. Because the timing of this rant was wild. Strickland was just coming off a 6-month suspension when he sat down at that media day. The Nevada State Athletic Commission had suspended him and fined him $5,000 after he stormed into the cage at a regional MMA event he wasn't even fighting on and punched another competitor. And that competitor? He was reportedly a police officer outside of MMA. That's the headspace he was in walking into Houston. The suspension was directly tied to anger management problems. Strickland had just finished serving discipline for violent behavior linked to poor impulse control, and his big return to the spotlight was a heated rant that sparked outrage. That timing alone raised eyebrows. And it didn't stop there. Just a week before that media day, he had posted a meme showing himself as an ICE agent standing next to his opponent, Anthony Hernandez, a Mexican-American fighter portrayed wearing a sombrero and poncho. That wasn't some random joke that missed the mark. It showed a pattern, the same tone, the same angle, the same type of messaging. The internet reacted fast. Former NFL quarterback Robert Griffin III delivered what many called the sharpest response in sports that year. He posted, "Sean Strickland got hit so hard by a foreigner that he forgot Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens. Not to mention that this misogynist crybaby would get tossed like salad if he ever stepped foot on a football field in the NFL. Worry about not getting knocked out in your next fight." And he came with receipts. Attached was a clip from UFC 276 in July 2022, where Brazilian fighter Alex Pereira knocked Strickland out cold. The foreigner line wasn't random, it was layered. A direct reminder that someone from another country had already put him flat on the canvas. RG3 understood exactly how to flip the narrative, and he didn't miss. Journalist Jemile Hill stepped back and asked a bigger question. What other major sport consistently produces behavior like this from its athletes and shrugs it off as part of the culture? Her focus wasn't just Strickland as one person. It was about what MMA promotes, what it tolerates, and what it protects. Online, the reaction split the way it always does. Critics pointed out the obvious. Strickland called a U.S. citizen a foreigner while not even knowing his name. Supporters tried to argue the NFL had made the wrong entertainment choice, but that argument was shaky from the start. 128 million people tuned in. The numbers showed massive engagement. Billions of views followed. That's not a silent protest. That's public approval at scale. And here's what makes this even more interesting. Bad Bunny saw the resistance coming long before Strickland ever spoke. The backlash began the moment the NFL announced him on September 28, 2025. President Donald Trump called the selection absolutely ridiculous. Then Speaker of the House Mike Johnson labeled it a terrible decision and even suggested Lee Greenwood as a better alternative. That wasn't random noise. That was organized pushback. Then DHS Secretary Kristi Noem announced that ICE agents would be stationed at the Super Bowl. That statement hit differently, especially since Bad Bunny had already excluded mainland U.S. dates from his world tour out of concern that ICE activity near his shows could put fans at risk. He had clearly been thinking about the climate long before the halftime stage lights ever turned on. This wasn't just about one rant. It was about culture, politics, sports, and who gets to define what American looks like, all colliding on the biggest stage in the country. Bad Bunny answered all of it the smoothest way possible on Saturday Night Live in October 2025. Calm, smiling, completely unbothered, he told critics in Spanish that they had 4 months to learn the language. No yelling, no panic, just confidence. Then he stepped onto the Super Bowl stage and did exactly what he said he would do. He performed for 128 million people. He brought out Lady Gaga. Ricky Martin joined him. A real wedding happened in the middle of the halftime show. And the week after, his album Debí Tirar Más Fotos jumped 191% in sales. That's how you respond. Not with tweets, but with results. California Governor Gavin Newsom even declared February 8th Bad Bunny Day. The 68th Grammy Awards had already crowned Debí Tirar Más Fotos Album of the Year before the halftime show ever happened. The momentum was already there. The Super Bowl just amplified it. Meanwhile, Turning Point USA organized an all-American halftime show alternative that same night, headlined by Kid Rock. That stream pulled 21 million YouTube views. The official Bad Bunny halftime show? Around 61 million views on YouTube in the same window. Even the viewers who tried to boycott him were outnumbered nearly 3-1 by the ones who tuned in. And while all that played out online, Strickland stepped into the Toyota Center in Houston on February 21st to face Anthony Hernandez, with the noise still echoing. Strickland's night in Houston didn't end the way he planned. Anthony Hernandez stopped him by TKO in the third round. That snapped Strickland's 8-fight winning streak. Hernandez walked away with a $100,000 Performance of the Night bonus and a 9-day medical suspension attached to the win. Just like that, the spotlight shifted. Here's the twist no one can ignore. The controversy around Strickland's rant brought extra attention to the fight card. More clicks, more clips, more headlines. His angry speech about a man whose name he didn't even know likely drove more eyes to the very event he was promoting. That irony doesn't need help. It speaks for itself. And at the center of this whole situation is something that deserves to be said clearly. Strickland stood at a press conference, asked a reporter to name a global superstar he was criticizing, called a U.S. citizen a foreigner, and casually used language meant to tear people down. All of it built around a narrow version of masculinity so fragile that a performer dancing on a stage felt like a threat that required a public outburst. That's not sharp commentary. That's not clever humor. That's a grown man in his mid-30s still operating from ideas formed in his teens and never seriously challenged. Meanwhile, Bad Bunny kept moving forward. Bigger stages, bigger numbers, bigger moments. If you want breakdowns that go deeper than headlines and show you what's really happening behind these viral moments, hit subscribe to Juicy Reel, because we're just getting started. And here's the part nobody can ignore. While Strickland was fighting ghosts at a press conference, Bad Bunny was fighting and winning on the biggest stage in entertainment. One man was arguing about what America used to be. The other was standing in front of 128 million people, showing what America actually looks like right now. This wasn't just about football. It wasn't just about music. It was about visibility. Culture shifts don't ask for permission. They show up, perform, and let the numbers speak. And the numbers were loud. 4 billion social views. A 191% album surge. Millions more tuning in across language barriers. That's not a niche audience. That's mainstream power. And here's the real lesson. Outrage is loud, but growth is louder. The people who tried to frame the performance as the end of something accidentally helped turn it into the beginning of something bigger. Every rant created curiosity. Every complaint drove clicks. Every viral argument amplified the moment. Meanwhile, Bad Bunny didn't argue back in comment sections. He didn't spiral. He didn't chase headlines. He performed. He sold records. He collected awards. He kept moving. That's the difference between reacting and building. Meanwhile, Bad Bunny headlined the 4th most watched halftime show in Super Bowl history. He performed in the language of his culture in front of 128 million people. The week after, career best album sales, a Grammy for Album of the Year already secured, and film credits lined up alongside Edward Norton, Javier Bardem, and Viggo Mortensen waiting ahead of him. And Strickland didn't even know his name. That gap right there, that's the whole story. One man building a global legacy across music, film, and culture. The other launching a rant based on facts he never checked. One expanding his reach. The other shrinking his argument in real time. Numbers don't lie. Awards don't lie. Box office credits don't lie. The stage was massive, and so was the response. Now I want to hear from you. What did you honestly think about Bad Bunny's halftime show? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want more deep dives that cut through the noise and break down moments like this without the fluff, subscribe to Juicy Reel right now. We're only getting bigger from here.
And I'm with the queen of rap,
We seriously need to talk about the Grammys last night because the noise didn't start on stage. It started way before the cameras even rolled.
Okay, obviously I can't complain about this. This isn't me complaining, okay? But I just got offered 2 tickets to the Grammys tonight. I had no intention of going to the Grammys tonight. Look at me. Everyone is booked. What do you do?
Every award show sparks debate, but this time people were already heated before the first performance even happened, and the mood online was loud and messy from the jump. Before the televised show kicked off, fans noticed the same old move again. Most of the awards were pushed into the pre-show.
Listen, I knew that getting tickets to the show was going to be really difficult, but I thought that would be just because of how many people were getting in the queue. I did not think that it was going to be because of the price. What the actual is this? These are the actual ticket prices for the Harry Styles Together show? Are you for real?
The Grammys pre-show aired around 12:30 p.m., hours before the main broadcast at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and more than 80 awards were handed out off camera. That had people asking why the biggest night in music keeps hiding the actual wins. Big names like Lady Gaga, Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo, and plenty of others were announced as winners during the pre-show. But here's the problem. A lot of artists were backstage getting glam and ready for the live broadcast, so many weren't even there to accept their awards. That means no real reactions, no emotional moments, and no first-time winner shock, which fans live for. Instead, the televised show went all in on performances and spectacle, treating the awards like background noise. Online, people were side-eyeing the fact that fewer than 10 awards were handed out during a 3.5-hour broadcast. Fans weren't quiet about it either, saying it felt more like a concert than an award show, and the complaints kept stacking up fast. People were already dragging it online, saying, "Most of the winners are announced and the show hasn't even started yet." And they weren't wrong. The actual Grammy Awards ceremony runs close to 3 hours, but let's be real. That time is packed with ads, long performances, and barely any trophies handed out. #Grammys was popping off, with fans saying they're tired of seeing a boatload of Grammy wins dumped out before the live broadcast even begins. And that wasn't the only drama bubbling before the cameras went live. People also noticed something wild. Cole was suddenly no longer running the glam bot. Now nobody knows if that means he got fired, benched, or just told to sit this one out because of all the noise surrounding him lately. Either way, fans noticed instantly. I was watching Glambot clips myself, and when I heard a woman's voice saying action and directing celebs where to stand, I was shook. It felt off, different, and yeah, shocking. A lot of people couldn't believe Cole was missing from such a huge night. This didn't come out of nowhere either. If you've been keeping up with recent T recaps, the Glambot drama has been brewing since the Golden Globe Awards. That's when people accused Jennifer Lopez of being rude to Cole, dragged her online, and then Cole stepped in to defend her publicly. Ever since then, the Glambot situation has felt tense and messy. Then things got even messier when old emails from Cole Walliser suddenly resurfaced. In those emails, he was talking to someone who wanted the Glambot at their wedding, and people felt like he jumped to conclusions about their money. The tone rubbed a lot of folks the wrong way, and online critics quickly labeled it rude and out of touch. Cole did come forward and addressed it. He apologized for how he sounded in those old messages and admitted it didn't come off right. Still, The timing was wild because not long after, he was missing from the Grammys and a new woman was running the glam bot instead. To a lot of viewers, it didn't feel like a coincidence at all. The comments section was loud and emotional. People were straight up begging, saying things like, "Get Cole back," "Where's Cole?" and "We need Cole." Others were saying, "It's not the same without him," and "It's the personality with the bot that makes it fun." Fans weren't shy about saying they weren't feeling the replacement, and honestly, with how fast this all went down, it's hard to believe the new operator had much time to prep. Stepping into that role on one of the biggest nights in entertainment is pressure-heavy, dealing with non-stop celebrity interactions, flashing lights, and a fan base already mad? Yeah, she was probably feeling the heat all night. Anyway, more stuff popped off before the main show even started. Sabrina Carpenter hit the carpet and instantly clocked something weird. She joked that the photographers were unusually quiet for once, and she low-key credited Chappelle Roan for that. Sabrina basically implied Chappelle had whipped them into shape because she's known for calling photographers out when they get loud, aggressive, or rude. And honestly, it worked. Sabrina said the photographers were on their absolute best behavior, like they didn't want to get checked again. The fear was real. Speaking of Chappelle, I cannot unsee that dress. If you've seen the photos, you already know. I can't even show it because it would probably get flagged, but let's just say the dress was giving extreme illusion vibes. It looked like it was barely hanging on, and if someone stepped the wrong way, that would have been a nightmare moment. She only wore it briefly on the carpet before switching outfits inside, but she definitely made sure people talked about it. Back to Sabrina, though. Once the show started, she was the second performer of the night, and her stage setup was insane. The visuals, the layout, the whole vibe looked expensive and polished. But then, the bird. She had a live bird on stage, flapping around, and the second I saw it, I knew the internet was about to react. People immediately started saying PETA was going to come for her. Fans were worried she'd get dragged or canceled, and a lot of people were confused about why the bird was even there in the first place. People online were not holding back at all. Comments were flying like, "Sabrina Carpenter's performance looks chaotic right now," and "Why is there a live bird in her hand?" Others were straight up confused, asking if Sabrina Carpenter was about to get flagged for using a real bird on stage. Some fans joked that both Sabrina and the bird looked nervous, and a lot of people kept asking the same thing. Was the bird actually necessary, and what did it even add to the performance? To be fair, many still said Sabrina sounded amazing. Vocals? On point. Stage presence? Strong. But the bird choice had people scratching their heads, calling it odd and distracting, even if the performance itself was solid. Then the show officially kicked off, and suddenly Nicki Minaj was trending for not even being there. Trevor Noah, who was hosting, made it very clear that Nicki was absent, and the crowd reacted loudly. People were cheering, and yeah, that reaction shocked a lot of viewers, especially with Nicki recently being linked to Trump-related headlines. And it didn't stop there. Cameras caught Chrissy Teigen sitting behind, throwing pure shade. She was giving a thumbs up, mouthing, "Bye," and TikTok ran with it instantly. Someone even joked, "Not Chrissy waving bye like she's universally loved either." Messy vibes everywhere. Still, plenty of celebs clearly used the night to stand firm and make quiet statements, especially on the red carpet. A lot of stars made quiet but loud statements last night, and people clocked it instantly. Justin Bieber, Hailey Bieber, Joni Mitchell, and others rocked Ice Out pins, and winners like Billie Eilish, Bad Bunny, and Olivia Dean used their acceptance speeches to say what needed to be said. Meanwhile, country star Jelly Roll dodged the topic completely and called himself a dumb redneck, And yeah, the internet did not like that at all. Another moment people instantly noticed? When Lady Gaga won Best Pop Album, Miley Cyrus didn't stand or clap right away. Cameras caught it, social media ran wild, and comments like Miley being salty and "Why is Miley still sitting?" flooded timelines. She did clap after Gaga's speech, but people swore the pause said everything. Now let's talk Justin because wow, he delivered a super stripped down performance of Yukon. And when I say stripped down, I mean literally. Small setup, minimal production, and yeah, barely any clothes. But vocals? Insane. People were saying his live version sounded better than the studio track, and honestly, they weren't lying. Fans kept saying, "You can never take away this man's talent," and "he doesn't need glam or extras. Pure vocals, pure control, pure skill." People also noticed a new back tattoo during Justin's performance, and the debate was wild. Some swore it looked like Jesus. Others said it was clearly Haley. Honestly, I saw both arguments. Haley was shown multiple times cheering him on, fully supportive, and later she posted she was Coachella ready, and yeah, you could feel it coming. But on the carpet? Whew, people were dissecting their body language hard. There's a clip where Haley tries to fix her dress while posing, and Justin just looks completely over it. Comments were brutal, like, "May a love like this never find me," and "He looks like he wants to go home." Still, once they were inside, vibes looked way better. Another moment that had people side-eyeing everything was Pusha T performing after a Variety article dropped the day before mentioning his name in connection to newly released Epstein-related documents. The article said the names came from an anonymous FBI crisis intake report, and social media was like, "So this happens and he's still performing?" The comments were ruthless, calling it a wild choice. Throughout the night, host Trevor Noah kept shouting out artists who've publicly pushed back against Ticketmaster, and that felt very pointed, especially with all the drama tied to Harry Styles' ticket prices. Funny enough, Harry didn't show up until the exact moment he had to present. When Harry was announced as a presenter, the Grammys socials even joked about Ticketmaster, with fans commenting things like, "Is he presenting an apology for $1,200 tickets?" The Grammys replied with sarcasm, listing fake perks like handwritten lyrics, hugs, and adopting your dog. Some fans laughed, others said it was tone deaf, especially when people are upset about obvious price gouging. Messy response, for sure. As for the winners, most people actually felt satisfied. Some were sad Sabrina Carpenter went home empty-handed, especially since cameras kept cutting to her. Others felt bad for Cat's Eye and Addison Rae, who performed backstage instead of getting a full stage moment during Best New Artist. The big wins? Song of the Year went to Billie Eilish for Wildflower, Record of the Year went to Kendrick Lamar and SZA for Luther, Album of the Year went to Bad Bunny, and Best New Artist went to Olivia Dean. Some nitpicks here and there, but no massive backlash this time. One thing that kept coming up was how different the energy felt compared to past years. This Grammys didn't feel glossy and fake happy, it felt sharp, divided, and way more honest. Celebs weren't hiding where they stood, whether that meant wearing pins, skipping applause, or making statements without saying a single word. Silence spoke just as loud as speeches last night. Another big talking point was how the camera work felt intentional. Producers lingered on moments that didn't need lingering, almost daring the internet to react. And guess what? The internet did exactly that. Every awkward cut, every delayed clap, every glance was turned into a headline within minutes. People also kept saying this felt like a transition year, like the industry is shifting, the power players are changing, and the old rules aren't working the same way anymore. Less polish, more pressure, and a lot more accountability floating in the room. And honestly, that's why this Grammys hit different. It wasn't just about music. It was about image, politics, power, and who's brave enough to stand 10 toes down when the lights are on. If you live for breakdowns like this, the hidden drama, the moments everyone felt but couldn't explain, make sure you subscribe to Juicy Reel right now. You don't want to miss the next deep dive because, trust me, the aftermath of this night is only getting messier. Now I need to know what you think. Did the winners make sense? Were the shady moments too much or just right? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you love breaking down pop culture chaos like this, smash that subscribe button and join the Juicy Reel fam for all the tea you don't want to miss.
Puerto Rico, I want to dedicate this award to all the people that had to leave their homeland, their country to follow their dreams. Before I say thanks to God, I'm going to say eyes out. We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans and we are Americans.
The story doesn't start under the bright lights of the Super Bowl. It kicks off months earlier, when Bad Bunny made a move that confused a lot of industry insiders. Instead of chasing the UK with safe, radio-friendly hits, he dropped an album that felt personal, raw, and unapologetically Puerto Rican. In late 2024, he released Davy Tarara Moss Photos, a project soaked in memory, culture, and identity.
Also, I want to say to the people, I know it's tough to not to hate on these days. And I was thinking, sometimes we get contaminados. I don't know how to say that in English. The hate get more powerful with more hate. The only thing that is more powerful than hate is love. We need to be different. If we fight, we have to do it with love. If we don't hate them, we love our people, we love our family, and that's the way to do it, with love. Don't forget that, please. Thank you.
The title translates to, I should have taken more photos, and that alone tells you this wasn't built for charts. It was built from the heart. No English hooks slipped in to make it easier for global playlists. No watered-down verses. The entire record stayed in Spanish, intentional and bold, like he was daring the market to either step up or step aside. When the album landed on the UK Albums Chart, it debuted at number 13. Respectable? Yes. Explosive? Not quite. It wasn't some overnight takeover. It felt more like the industry nodding quietly, saying, we see what you're doing. But here's the twist. Bad Bunny was already playing in a different league. He had dominated global streaming platforms for years, smashing records across continents.
Bad Bunny used the sky blue Puerto Rico flag at the Super Bowl. You might be used to seeing this flag with navy blue instead, but what does each flag mean? Time for a little Puerto Rican history. This was the first flag of Puerto Rico, the revolutionary flag of Lares. It was knitted by Mariana Bracetti Cuevas during the first uprising of Lares in 1868. It was flown there, the first revolt against Spanish colonizers. After that, pro-independence Puerto Ricans in New York City in the 1890s created this flag. And that flag would become the official flag with sky blue, white, and red. After Spain, the United States colonized Puerto Rico in 1898. Between then and the establishment of Puerto Rico as a Commonwealth in 1952, it was a felony to display the Puerto Rican flag in public. There was even a gag law which made displaying a Puerto Rican light blue or Lares flag punishable by up to 10 years in prison. In 1952, the color of the Puerto Rican flag changed from sky blue to navy blue, resembling the flag of the United States. And later, the gag law was deemed unconstitutional. For many, the light blue flag is a symbol of freedom, independence, and also a historical learning moment.
The UK, though, has always moved at its own pace, cautious and calculated. The UK market rewards what it already knows. It leans into comfort. It sticks with tradition. And even though Latin music had been gaining ground for years, a fully Spanish-language album hovering near the top still felt like a stretch to many industry watchers. So number 13 became this invisible ceiling. Week after week, the album stayed right there. No dramatic spike, No sudden UK viral wave. No explosive headline moment. Just steady numbers and quiet consistency. It almost felt like the narrative had already been decided. Global superstar, but only moderate traction in Britain. Clean, predictable, contained. And that part matters more than people realize. Chart takeovers rarely come out of nowhere. They build pressure behind the scenes. By early February 2026, the project looked locked into its lane. It wasn't rising, it wasn't falling, it was stable, almost frozen in place.
At number 64 jersey, that was not a random number. It was a direct shot at the government for initially reporting only 64 deaths from Hurricane Maria, hiding the thousands who actually died. That little house you saw on stage, it was a symbol of resistance against the rich tourists and the developers, gentrifying the island and pushing local families out of their homes. His shout-out to Tonita in Nueva York was a deep cut. It was a nod to the legendary owner of a beloved cultural hub for the Puerto Rican community in New York City. And the kid holding his Grammy was a gut punch about the children separated from their families at the border by harsh ICE policies. Those figures on the power lines directly reference the chronic blackouts from his protest song Al Apagon, which slams the privatization of the island's power grid. Now, bringing out Ricky Martin wasn't just a fun cameo. It was a powerful reclaiming of Puerto Rican pop history on the biggest stage in America. And the Puerto Rican flag he used had a light blue triangle. That is not the official one. It's the specific flag of the pro-independence and anti-colonial movement. And finally, his last line, he reframed America to mean the entire continent. The North, the Central, and the South, a defiant message of unity for all of us.
Then February 8th, 2026 hit Super Bowl Sunday, and suddenly the rules started bending. Super Bowl 60 pulled in over 100 million viewers in the United States alone, one of the biggest TV audiences of the year. That halftime stage has always belonged to mainstream English-language pop giants. That's the tradition. That's the formula. But on February 8th, 2026, Bad Bunny stepped onto that stage and flipped the script in real time. He performed entirely in Spanish, not halfway, not softened for wider appeal, not some bilingual compromise to make executives comfortable. The setlist stayed loyal to the catalog that built him, track by track, word by word. On the biggest broadcast stage in American television, that decision carried weight, and everybody felt it. The Super Bowl halftime show has hosted global icons for decades, from polished pop royalty to stadium rock giants. Traditionally, it spotlights artists who slide easily into American mainstream culture. But Bad Bunny didn't reshape himself to fit that mold. He didn't translate his identity. He brought his world with him and made the world watch. The impact was instant. Social media lit up within minutes. Clips flooded timelines. Streaming numbers jumped within hours. Major playlists adjusted fast. Search traffic exploded like people were racing to catch up. The energy wasn't subtle. It was loud and measurable. But the most fascinating reaction didn't unfold in the United States. It happened across the Atlantic. While American viewers argued about stage design and surprise guests, something concrete was shifting inside the UK charts. And this wasn't a gentle rise. It wasn't the slow burn of radio rotation. This was pressure finally breaking through. This wasn't the usual small boost artists get after a big TV moment. It wasn't a polite spike and fade. It was a full-on surge, the kind that makes chart analysts pause, refresh the data, and check twice before going live with the numbers. Within days of the broadcast, UK streams for Davy Tarara Moss photos shot up fast. And it wasn't just one catchy single pulling the weight. Multiple tracks from the album started climbing at the same time. The whole project moved as a unit. That's not random hype, that's demand kicking the door open. This wasn't momentum slowly building in the background. It was momentum arriving all at once. And when the official UK chart numbers dropped, The shift was impossible to downplay. The week after the Super Bowl, the UK albums chart delivered the shocker. Davy Tarara Moss Photos jumped from number 13 straight to number 2. An 11-place leap in a single week is rare territory. Albums don't just vault like that without a serious external trigger. This wasn't gradual growth, it was a sharp market correction. Only Olivia Dean's The Art of Loving held it from the number 1 spot, and even that gap was tight. Meanwhile, the UK singles chart echoed the same energy. DTMF rocketed up 39 places to land at number 4, marking Bad Bunny's highest UK singles position ever. OL pushed into the top 20, peaking around number 15, while Bail Inolvidable followed closely, hovering near number 20. The takeover wasn't subtle, it was everywhere. This wasn't one random viral clip dragging the numbers up. It was the whole album moving as one. When multiple tracks rise at the same time, that signals something deeper than a catchy hook on repeat. That means new listeners aren't just tasting a chorus, they're diving headfirst into the catalog. That's replay value. That's real conversion. That's people staying. For years, Bad Bunny had ruled global streaming platforms. He topped international year-end lists. He shattered records across territories. But in the UK, there always seemed to be a glass ceiling. That number 13 debut showed respect, sure, but it also hinted at limits. Strong recognition, limited crossover. And then in one single week, that ceiling cracked wide open. The Super Bowl didn't introduce him to the world. The world already knew. What it did was amplify him inside a market that had kept him slightly at arm's length. And that moment turned into his first solo UK Top 10 album, plus one of his highest charting singles ever in the territory. That's not small progress. That's a shift. The charts didn't slowly adjust, they snapped. And when numbers move that fast, the bigger question isn't about hype, it's about structure. What actually changed? The audience or the rules of the game? Because the language didn't change. Bad Bunny has made Spanish-language music his entire career. He didn't flip to English. He didn't rebrand. He didn't dilute who he was. The album that jumped to number 2 was the exact same album that debuted at 13. The only difference? Visibility. That Super Bowl stage in February 2026 turned the volume all the way up. He never treated Spanish like it was niche. He never packaged it as regional. He presented it as global by default, and that difference hits hard. For decades, artists trying to break into English-speaking markets were expected to adjust everything, translate the lyrics, tweak the sound, rework the image, reposition the brand. He didn't bend. He didn't filter himself down. And the UK reaction proved something powerful. When confidence shows up instead of compromise, audiences feel it. That post-Super Bowl spike wasn't sympathy. It wasn't hype for hype's sake. It was curiosity turning into real streams. People didn't just watch the performance and move on. They went searching. They pressed play. And they stayed. That's a big difference. Now look at the industry mechanics. Charts measure consumption, but exposure fuels that consumption. Airplay, playlist slots, headlines, algorithm boosts. These shape momentum behind the scenes. And the Super Bowl halftime show? That's one of the only stages big enough to flip those switches overnight. But none of this happened in a vacuum. The groundwork was already solid. Years of consistent releases, massive global tours, record-breaking streaming numbers. The UK surge didn't build a fan base from zero. It activated one that had been hovering just below the surface. That 11-place album jump and 39-place singles climb weren't random. They were pressure finally released. These single surges weren't random spikes. They were pressure finally releasing. And when that pressure broke through, it challenged one long-standing assumption. that English is the required gateway to full mainstream validation. The charts didn't just log a victory, they documented a structural shift in real time. Bad Bunny was 31 when this happened. He wasn't some new act scrambling for attention. He wasn't an underdog begging to be seen. He was already one of the most streamed artists on the planet before the UK numbers ever moved. That's what makes this moment heavy. For years, global streaming data screamed dominance. Billions of plays, sold-out stadium tours, major awards. But global stats and local validation are two different games. The UK has always carried a reputation as a tastemaker territory, selective, measured, slow to fully embrace non-English catalogs. That number 13 debut felt like confirmation of that caution. Respect, but restraint. Then the leap to number 2 flipped the tone entirely. The Super Bowl performance didn't reinvent his career. It sharpened the lens. It made the narrative impossible to ignore. He reached the biggest televised stage in America without switching languages, without trimming his identity, and still expanded into a market that once felt hesitant. That's not just growth. That's proof that the rules are changing. And once that barrier cracked, the ripple effect went deeper than just one chart week. Industry executives started paying closer attention. Program directors who once hesitated around full Spanish records suddenly had fresh data in front of them. Streaming platforms adjusted recommendations faster. Media coverage shifted tone from, "Can he cross over?" to, "He already has." That language change matters more than people think. Because this wasn't about novelty, it wasn't about a one-night spectacle, it was about normalization. When millions of viewers watched a Super Bowl halftime show performed entirely in Spanish and didn't tune out, it quietly rewired expectations. The idea that English is the default setting for global success took a hit. And here's the key part. Nothing about the music changed. The production style stayed consistent. The lyrics stayed authentic. The cultural references remained rooted in Puerto Rico. The only variable that shifted was scale. Visibility expanded and the market adjusted around it. That's why this moment carries weight beyond one artist. It signaled that mainstream validation doesn't have to come after translation. It can come through amplification. The UK charts didn't just reward a performance, they responded to confidence presented at maximum volume. And when markets respond like that, it forces the entire industry to rethink what global really means moving forward. What happened next wasn't loud, but it was telling. In the weeks that followed, the numbers didn't crash back down. That's the part people overlook. Flashy viral moments fade fast. But this held. The album maintained strong positioning. Tracks continued pulling streams. That kind of stability proves the spike wasn't hype. It was integration. UK listeners didn't just visit the catalog out of curiosity. They added songs to playlists. They replayed them. They shared them. That's when a market shifts from observing to participating. And once participation kicks in, the ceiling doesn't reset to where it used to be. There's also a psychological layer here. When audiences see an artist command the biggest stage in American entertainment without compromising language or identity, it reframes perception. It removes the idea of foreign and replaces it with formidable. That shift is subtle, but powerful. For years, the conversation around non-English music in certain Western markets revolved around barriers, accessibility, translation, adaptation. This moment flipped that narrative. It suggested that scale and confidence can override hesitation. And when one major territory recalibrates, others watch closely. Labels take notes, festival bookers reassess lineups, radio programmers reconsider risk. The ripple doesn't stop at one chart week. It reshapes strategy. Because once a market proves it can respond to authenticity at full volume, it becomes harder to argue that compromise was ever necessary in the first place. Exposure doesn't magically create taste, but it can accelerate acceptance. And audiences are way more flexible than old industry models like to admit. The UK didn't discover Bad Bunny overnight. The foundation was already there. What changed was scale. The response finally matched the global reality. What happened after February 8, 2026, wasn't just a random chart blip. It was a case study in cultural confidence colliding with mainstream infrastructure and winning. It showed that you don't have to dilute identity to expand markets. Sometimes you just need the volume turned up high enough for everyone to hear it. Now the real question, was this a one-time Super Bowl surge or the moment the UK finally aligned with a global shift already in motion? Drop your take below and tap into the next video for our deeper breakdown of another public figure who reshaped the industry without reshaping themselves. Let's get into this Bad Bunny situation for real. People online throw all kinds of nicknames around, but the real conversation isn't about the name. It's about that halftime show and why so many viewers felt let down. Before jumping to conclusions, here's some context. There's a clip going around from a guy online named Joe Bonham, Bonham, if you want to look him up. He interviewed NFL players before the halftime show even happened. And what came out of those interviews? Total disconnect. A lot of those players admitted they had no clue who Bad Bunny was. Not one song, not one album, nothing. One of them even said, "I thought it was a girl." And when he found out it wasn't, he assumed something else and said, "I thought it was a gay dude, which I can almost put my life on it." That wasn't even meant as disrespect. It just shows how unfamiliar some audiences were with him. So think about that for a second. If a big part of the NFL crowd doesn't even recognize the artist, how are they supposed to feel excited when he hits the stage? That's the gap people are reacting to. Not just the performance, but the mismatch between the artist and the audience. Now things got even more heated after that. One guy straight up said, "He's a gay dude. I want to call him the F word, but I'm really trying to be saved." That right there shows how emotional people were getting, but let's keep it real. Throwing insults doesn't make the argument stronger, it just makes it louder. Then he doubled down and said, "Nobody listens to Bad Bunny, bro." That's how out of touch he felt with the whole thing. He even added, "Then I found out he don't even do nothing in English." What the F? I don't know. No Spanish. I know how to tell you to put your hands behind your back. That mean turn around. That mean you under arrest. He tried to turn it into a joke about only knowing basic commands, saying, "I don't know no Spanish 'cause I'm an American. I barely know English." It was messy, but it shows the culture gap he was talking about. And then, plot twist, he jumps straight into a mattress ad like nothing happened. He starts praising Brooklyn bedding, saying his sleep changed overnight. "I fall asleep way faster. I stay asleep, and I wake up feeling like I actually rested." He even said he bought one for his mama and his mother-in-law, trying to get the whole family upgraded. Before buying, he took their sleep quiz, answered a few simple questions, and got matched with the perfect mattress. From halftime drama to bedtime comfort in one breath, that transition was wild. He kept pushing the mattress heavy. He said what he loves most is the comfort and the value. Factory direct quality without all that retail circus energy. No pushy showroom workers, no crazy markups, no awkward sales pressure. It shows up rolled tight in a box, you open it, and boom, it sets up in minutes. No strange smells, no drama, and it sleeps cool through the night. He made sure to mention Brooklyn bedding has been around since 1995. Every mattress is designed, assembled, and shipped straight out of Arizona. from their own factory. That's how they keep the quality high and the price reasonable. You also get a 120-night sleep trial, a limited lifetime warranty, and free shipping right to your door. He made it clear. He loves his Brooklyn bedding mattress and thinks you would too. Then he drops the promo. Go to brooklynbedding.com/Tatum and get 30% off with code Tatum. Simple pitch. Sleep better and feel the difference. But just like that, the vibe flips again. Let's play a couple clips, he says. Suddenly, the focus shifts back to the halftime storm. He mentions people on the news talking about the performance. Clip 103, he calls out. And here's where it gets heated again. He says, and Bad Bunny is doing all kind of nasty stuff and kissing other dudes and all kind of stuff. But y'all don't care about that. Then he switches it to Kid Rock, saying people want to dig up something from 150 years ago about him instead of talking about how Kid Rock was speaking about faith and changing his life. But y'all want to bring up something old about Kid Rock. Now, the argument isn't just about a halftime show. It's about media focus, double standards, and who gets criticized versus who gets defended. Then he cranked the volume up again. He said, but Bad Bunny is I want to say it, but I'm trying to be a good Christian. You could tell he was holding himself back, but the frustration was still loud. He pointed at the screen and asked, look at what he's putting on TV in front of your kids. That was his angle. Not just the artist, but the visibility of the performance. He called for the clip and reacted hard. He described it as two dudes bumping peepees, saying that's what people were defending. That's how he framed it, as something he believed crossed a line for mainstream television. He questioned why that kind of display was considered acceptable to some viewers, especially during a major broadcast event. Then he added another layer to it, the language barrier. He said people still didn't know what was being said because it was in Spanish. We still don't know what he's saying, he argued, tying it back to his belief that the audience couldn't connect with it. When the next clip rolled, he shifted the focus again, this time to audience demographics. He claimed, no white people ain't listening to that stuff. Then he compared it to rap artists like Nelly and Ludacris. He talked about going to a concert at a golf tournament and being shocked that white fans were singing every word. He even admitted that growing up, he thought artists like Nelly, Ludacris, and Ja Rule were only popular in certain communities until he saw otherwise. His point? Language matters. He argued that when artists perform in English, the broader audience connects easier. Whether people agree or not, that's the argument he was pushing. Connection, culture, and who the mainstream audience relates to. Then he moves on again, asking who else has a take on it. He says, we got a VER on there. Let's go to the VER. Roll it. And once that clip starts, the energy jumps again. The speaker in that clip goes straight into it, talking about unity, then flipping it into frustration about Black History Month. He claims there wasn't a single Black performer highlighted during that Super Bowl moment. He argues that while it was February, a month that recognizes Black history, the spotlight seemed focused on Latin culture instead. He pushes it even further, saying Latino heritage was being celebrated on that stage. Spanish language, Latin music, full cultural expression, and in his view, Black representation wasn't front and center the way he expected. That's the angle he's taking, whether people agree with it or not. Then he makes it political, saying certain communities are being taken for granted and that support during elections isn't being rewarded with visibility. He throws out strong words, calling the artist Black Dumb Bunny, or whatever his name is, clearly frustrated and mixing things up in the process. He also questions the language barrier again. He says if someone went on stage speaking Japanese at a huge American event, most viewers wouldn't understand it. His argument is about connection, claiming people can't engage with something they don't understand. It's loud, it's emotional, and it's definitely a heated take. And just like that, he's ready to move on to the next opinion in line. Then he switches gears again. Come on, Shannon Sharp. Unk, you think? And he pauses like he's about to call somebody out face to face. He starts questioning whether Shannon is just out of touch or distracted by personal drama that's been floating around online. He brings up that viral Instagram Live situation and basically says, you don't accidentally go live. There are steps to that. He also references a lawsuit that's been reported in the media, implying that with all that going on, maybe Shannon shouldn't be lecturing anybody right now. His tone is clear. Don't try to stand on a moral high ground when your own house looks messy. That's the energy he's coming with. But then he circles back to the halftime issue. He says the problem isn't that the artist is from another country. He insists nobody's mad about nationality. His claim is that the frustration is about language, about not understanding what's being said during a massive American broadcast. He compares it to other performers. He mentions U2 and the Rolling Stones, saying they performed in English, so the audience could connect and sing along. His argument is simple. If people can't understand the lyrics, they feel disconnected from the performance. He doubles down, saying it's not about background, it's about accessibility. That's the lane he's choosing, whether people agree with it or not. He keeps the train moving. All right, do we got somebody else with a bad take? Then he says, I think Don Lemon got a bad take. You can hear the sarcasm already loading up. He throws a jab, saying, that dude can't even do an interview without somebody standing behind him. That's how he frames it, more style than substance in his eyes. Then he calls for the clip to roll. Now the debate shifts into history and language again. The speaker in the clip argues that native tribes didn't speak Spanish either. He basically says, if we're going to rewind history and question language roots, then let's be consistent about it. He's accusing critics of picking and choosing which history they want to highlight and which parts they ignore. Then the tone turns sharp again. He mocks the idea that Spanish is suddenly controversial, questioning why it's fine in some contexts, but not others. His frustration sounds personal, like he believes people are moving the goalposts depending on the argument. When the clip continues, the topic shifts to Puerto Rico. The speaker says, Puerto Rico is a part of America. Then he brings up the whole stolen land conversation, suggesting there's hypocrisy in how people frame territory and history. He's basically saying, if we're going to talk about land, language, and ownership, then let's talk about all of it, not just the parts that fit a headline. By this point, it's less about halftime and more about culture wars, identity, and who gets to define what's American on a national stage. And just like that, he's ready to roll the next clip, this time about Backlash at a bar over Turning Point being played. Then he fires off again, defending that business that told critics not to come back. He says he respects companies that stand their ground instead of folding under pressure. His mindset is simple. If you don't like what a private business is doing, just leave. Don't try to shut it down. Don't try to bully it. Just walk away. That's the energy he's backing. Right after that, he pivots into something personal. He invites everyone to join him on February 25th at Longbow Golf Course for a charity golf event. He says this tournament means a lot to him because it's the only one he's ever played in. And this year, they're the title sponsors. That means he wants to show up big and make it count. He calls on supporters directly. Don't let him down. Come golf, show up, have fun, and back something positive. He says the link will be in the description, with tickets around $200 for an individual or $700 for a foursome. It's about community, connection, and supporting a cause. He also mentions that businesses can sponsor a whole, which helps fund Save the Storks, an organization he says he's worked with for about 5 years. According to him, they've helped launch multiple mobile medical clinics, often called stork buses, across different cities. He even talks about cutting the ribbon at one launch event in Texas, possibly the Dallas or Arlington area. These mobile clinics are designed to support women facing unexpected pregnancies by offering medical services and counseling in a non-hospital setting. For him, this isn't just about golf. It's about backing a cause he believes in and rallying his audience to step up too. He keeps it rolling and says, "Why sit around complaining if you believe there's a solution right in front of you?" In his view, instead of arguing nonstop, people should support organizations they believe actually address the issue. That's why he brings it back to save the storks again and tells people to show up, have fun, and be part of something positive. He paints the golf event like it's the highlight of the month. Cigars, laughs, good vibes, all for a cause. He's hyping it up heavy, saying it's going to be the most fun thing he does all month. That's the mood he's selling. Then he switches gears again and says, "Let's play Grandma real quick, because apparently Grandma had something to say too." The clip rolls, and Grandma jumps straight in. He ain't even speaking English. She argues the issue isn't about immigrants. It's about understanding what's being said during the performance. Her point is simple. How can the audience enjoy it if they don't understand the message? She compares it to hearing random sounds without context, saying if there's activism or meaning behind it, most viewers wouldn't even know. She also claims that in other countries, major national events usually highlight the native language. That's her perspective, whether people agree or not. And it keeps the debate centered on language, connection, and who the main audience is supposed to be. He wraps it up still confused about the hype. He says he doesn't even understand how the artist got that big if most of the mainstream crowd can't follow the language. That's his perspective. He keeps circling back to connection and comprehension. Then he shifts to Kid Rock and says Kid Rock had something to say that people really responded to. The clip rolls, and he reacts instantly. Just that little part right there, way better than everything Bad Bunny was doing. That's his opinion, loud and clear. He admits again he didn't understand what was being said in the halftime set, but what really gets him fired up is what he sees as selective outrage. He says commentators like Don Lemon are bringing up lyrics Kid Rock said years ago, digging deep into the past. Then he brings up other artists, the notorious B.I.G., Tupac, and 3-6 Mafia, arguing that many classic hip-hop acts had controversial lyrics too. His point isn't about erasing anyone. It's about consistency. He's questioning why certain artists get celebrated despite aggressive themes in their old music, while others get dragged for things they said decades back. For him, it all comes down to double standards and who the media chooses to spotlight or criticize. If you want more breakdowns like this, raw takes, culture debates, and the stuff people argue about behind the scenes, make sure you subscribe to Juicy Reel and stay locked in for the next drop. He closes it out still scratching his head. He says he doesn't even get how the artist became that popular when most of the mainstream audience can't understand the language. That confusion is what keeps fueling his whole argument. Then he pivots to Kid Rock and says Kid Rock had a few words that really hit home for a lot of people. The clip rolls, and he reacts fast. Just that little part right there, way better than everything Bad Bunny was doing. That's his take, straight up. He admits again he didn't understand the halftime lyrics, but what really bothers him is what he sees as selective criticism. He says commentators like Don Lemon are digging up things Kid Rock said years ago, acting outraged now. Meanwhile, he points to artists like the notorious B.I.G., Tupac, and 3-6 Mafia, all legends with intense, sometimes violent lyrics in their catalogs. His argument: if we're going to judge old lyrics, judge everybody the same. Don't rewrite the rules depending on who's in the spotlight. That's the double standard he believes is happening. If you want more real talk, bold debates, and breakdowns they don't always spell out on TV, hit that subscribe button on Juicy Reel and stay locked in. Because we're just getting started.
The Grammys are not just an award show, but a time capsule of culture. It reflects the political climate of our time, what moves people and what people are speaking out against. It highlights true artistry, giving a glimpse into the future of music and who the next generation of tastemakers will be.
The Grammys aren't just another awards night, they're a straight-up time capsule of culture. They show where the world is at, what people care about, what sparks outrage, and what voices are finally getting heard. Every year, it's a snapshot of the political mood, the creative risks, and the artists shaping what's next in music. The wins, the snubs, the speeches, all of it tells a deeper story. Not just who walked away with a trophy, but what the industry is choosing to reward, what it's quietly resisting, and what it totally slept on and is now scrambling to catch up to. This isn't about stats or applause. It's about power, influence, and momentum. So this isn't just a basic rundown of winners and losers. This is about reading between the lines, predicting where music is heading, and figuring out which artists are about to level up hard next year. What did these Grammys reveal about voting habits going forward? Who got nominated and who's about to explode next? Welcome back to Nikki at Night. I'm your host, Nikki Reardon, and I'm seriously hyped to break this all down today. I was actually there last night thanks to YouTube, and it was unreal. Walking the carpet, snapping pics, hitting the glam bot, posted up in a private suite the whole night. Big love to YouTube for that invite. It was a once-in-a-lifetime vibe. And let's be real, the performances this year absolutely went off. I cannot wait to break all of this down with you because, trust me, I have a lot of thoughts. And seriously, thank you for watching, because this whole thing still feels unreal. The fact that this is something I get to do and actually call work is wild to me. It doesn't even feel real half the time. Every single view, every click, every minute you spend watching makes this possible for me. You're the reason music journalism gets taken seriously again. The reason people actually want to talk about artistry, intention, and what it really means to be a musician. That support is changing my life in real time, and I don't take that lightly at all. Now let's get into my favorite category of the night, Best New Artist. I called Olivia Dean, period. I genuinely think she could take Album of the Year next year, which is insane to even say out loud. Technically, The Art of Loving still counts for next year's album cycle, so we might be stepping straight into the year of Olivia Dean. Her performance was unreal. She has one of the most magnetic auras I've ever seen, no exaggeration. The way she smiles, the way she moves, the way she holds the stage, you can tell she's fully living her dream. It's beautiful to watch. And her acceptance speech? Absolutely flawless. Her speech was tight, meaningful, and quietly powerful. It hit the political side without forcing it, and she spoke so clearly about what this moment meant to her. Hearing her talk about her experience as the granddaughter of an immigrant was genuinely beautiful, and it landed hard for me personally. You could feel the pride, the gratitude, and the history all wrapped into one moment. I also loved that they brought back the Best New Artist medley. That is always such a smart move. It gives new artists real stage time, not just a name on a screen. For a lot of viewers, this is the first real introduction to some of these artists, and that matters. Everyone already knows Gaga, Kendrick, and Bad Bunny. The world's locked in on them. This was about saying, pay attention, these are the next ones up. That focused intention felt so clear. These are the artists who shook the room this year, and this is the next generation stepping forward. Giving each of them their own moment on that stage was special. But there were a few performances that completely stole my attention. Lola Young had my jaw on the floor. Going minimalist with just a piano and her voice was the smartest possible move. When you're sharing a medley with that many people, stripping it all back is power. Just her, the piano, and a slow, emotional version of Messy. That's it? No distractions? Her vocals are unreal, like actually outrageous live. I need that version on streaming immediately. Please put that on Spotify because it was stunning. Somehow her voice sounded even better live, and that's rare. Absolutely insane performance. She is absolutely on track to be remembered as one of the greatest vocalists of this generation. No doubt about it. That voice is not normal. And I loved that Somber chose to perform 12 to 12, because that is hands down his strongest song to date. It really shows his full range, not just as a singer, but as a songwriter and producer too. You can tell there's way more depth to him as an artist than people might expect. We've seen Back to Friends and Undressed, which fit that sad boy, emo-leaning era perfectly. But after this performance, I'm like, wait a second. You could drop a full disco album and I would eat that up immediately. No hesitation. And the look? Insane. I love how he always dresses like his music sounds. That giant disco ball energy, the custom metallic fit, it literally felt like 12 to 12 turned into an outfit. That's what a Grammys look should be to me. Full commitment, no fear. I also loved seeing him actually move on stage. Guys barely do choreography anymore, and it's wild to me. Is he a full dancer like Cat's Eye? No. But the little groove, the shimmy, the effort, that's what matters. We want performance. Look at what Sabrina's doing. Look at what Addison did. The girls are going all in. I want to see men try that hard too. Him easing into movement is such a good sign. Honestly, if he took dance classes, his stage presence would level up fast. I need more guys going for it like that, period. The transition into Addison Rae was absolutely wild. I was fully gagged. The energy shift was insane. It was bold, fearless, and completely locked in. That moment snapped everything into place and instantly raised the temperature in the room. It was pure pop star confidence. No hesitation, no holding back. If you're not losing your mind when she performs Gnarly at Coachella, I don't know what to tell you. If you're not right up at the barricade for Addison, respectfully, move out of the way. That's the energy she's bringing right now. This is about fun, movement, and letting loose again. Shake it, dance, jump, do something. Music is supposed to feel exciting. We need to bring joy back into performances. I want to see people moving, committing, and actually enjoying themselves. This isn't about standing still and looking cool. It's about giving us a moment. Addison fully understood the assignment and ran with it. I also want to talk about Alex Warren because that situation was genuinely rough. You could tell something was off, and that's terrifying when it's your very first Grammys. Performing live on TV, suspended in the air, everything going wrong at once. That's a nightmare scenario. But honestly, as a viewer, it did not come across badly at all. You could see how hard he was trying to stay focused and push through it. Given the circumstances, he handled it with real composure. That actually earned him a lot of respect from me. Showing up and finishing strong when things aren't perfect says a lot. All right, next up, let's talk about Song of the Year. Birds of a Feather alone pulling billions of streams in a single year says everything. That project is already generational, no debate. And honestly, this is Billy's strongest body of work to date. The songwriting on Wildflower is stunning. It digs into past relationships, personal mistakes, shared blame, and the emotional weight that comes with all of it. It's vulnerable, it's uncomfortable, and it's painfully honest. The vocal performance on that song is next level. Some of the best vocals of her entire career, easily. There's restraint, emotion, and control all wrapped together, and it hits hard every time. Something this Grammys really confirmed for me is that the rules are flexible. Technically, Wildflower dropped last year, but since it wasn't officially pushed as a single until this year, they let it slide. Same thing with Olivia Dean winning Best New Artist. Her album technically landed after the cutoff, but the singles dropped before, so that's what counted. But let's be real. The Grammys run on vibes more than spreadsheets. Olivia Dean has that undeniable aura right now. She feels like a rocket ship in motion, and in this moment, she felt like the best new artist. That momentum matters. And what made this even more interesting was the contrast with Somber. Because with him, it really felt like the album was rushed. The potential is clearly there, but timing and patience make all the difference. Somber dropped his album literally right before the cutoff, like a week out, and it was only 10 tracks. That was clearly a strategic move. The thinking was probably, okay, he needs an album out to even be considered, but we'll keep it tight and fast. Meanwhile, Olivia Dean did the complete opposite. She waited, took her time, and delivered a really cohesive, fully realized album after the cutoff. And in the end, the Grammys didn't care at all. Same story with Billie Eilish and Wildflower winning Song of the Year. That song was written so beautifully, so intentionally, that it honestly would have felt wild if it walked away with nothing. Sometimes the quality just overrides the calendar. I will say, though, there were a few surprises. I was genuinely shocked that APT didn't take home anything. That song is massive. It's clever, playful, and such a smart cultural moment. The wordplay alone, tying the game into apartment, is pop songwriting done right. It's catchy, it's cheeky, and it sticks in your head. Bruno Mars and Rosé together is such a strong pairing. I honestly would have loved to see that win Song of the Year or Record of the Year. But listen, Wildflower took it, and I'm not mad. You already know Billie is my girl. Record of the Year did surprise me a little, though. But then again, the Grammys love Kendrick Lamar. And to be fair, he always delivers at the highest level. Him winning Record of the Year 2 years in a row is honestly wild. That kind of back-to-back dominance does not happen by accident. I saw people pointing out that he's now officially the most Grammy-awarded rapper of all time. And yeah, that feels completely earned. At this point, Kendrick Lamar is legitimately in the conversation for greatest rapper ever, which is crazy to even say out loud. He's had an absolutely unreal 2-year run, not just commercially, but culturally too. Everything he touches sparks conversation, meaning, and impact. So honestly, I was happy with that win. That said, this category was stacked. There were so many incredible songs. For me, Abracadabra was the best performed song of the entire year, hands down. Lady Gaga isn't just performing anymore. She's building full-on cinematic worlds. A 3-story cage, Coachella, the VMAs, every single performance felt like a short film. That level of commitment is insane. The Subway would have been such a bold wildcard pick. Anxiety, too. Both of those would have made sense. And DTMF would have been incredible as well. But Bad Bunny already took Album of the Year. So I'm not mad about Record of the Year going elsewhere. That balance felt fair. Now let's talk about performances and some of the more interesting wins. Starting with Justin Bieber performing Naked. I actually think there was a lot of symbolism packed into that moment. Swag being his first album without Scooter Braun involved is a huge shift. That performance felt intentional, stripped back, and very telling. And yeah, There's definitely more to unpack there. That performance felt raw in a way we almost never see anymore. It was just Justin, stripped all the way down artistically. And honestly, that explains everything. The black and white visuals, the Black Album cover, the minimalism across the whole era. It all clicks when you think about it. Justin Bieber has been inside the machine since he was basically a kid. He spent his entire life being shaped, packaged, and directed by the industry. And it really feels like this is the first time he stepped fully outside of that system and said, "This is just me." That performance wasn't about spectacle. There was no band, no layers, no distractions, no costumes, no safety net, just him, his voice, and the song. And that was the whole point. It felt like him saying, "This is my most vulnerable version as an artist, and I'm standing in it." This album hits different because of that. It's raw, it's exposed, and yeah, it's his first album as a father too, which adds a whole other layer. There's something really poetic about that moment. People saw it and went straight to surface-level reactions, but there was a lot of intention baked into that performance. Now, for Best Pop Duo or Group Performance, I have a hot take. I genuinely think the original Defying Gravity hits harder than the version by Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. You can disagree, that's fine. Maybe it's nostalgia talking, but that original version still clears for me. And honestly, Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters would have been such a cool win too. That track had energy, impact, and real cultural momentum. I wouldn't have been mad at all if it took the trophy. The fact that K-pop Demon Hunters became the most streamed movie in Netflix history is actually mind-blowing. This wasn't a sequel, not a remake, not part of some giant franchise. Nobody saw it coming, and suddenly it was everywhere. That's what makes it such a real, cultural phenomenon. It came out of nowhere and completely took over. For K-pop as a genre, this was a massive mainstream moment, especially with younger audiences. It felt fresh, exciting, and different. You can already tell every studio is scrambling behind the scenes, trying to figure out how to recreate that magic. How do we get our own version of that? That impact is going to be studied for years. Honestly, I would have loved to see it take the win. I'm not mad at Defying Gravity, because yes, I love Wicked, and yes, I love Ariana, we all know that. But if I'm being real, I think K-pop Demon Hunters would have been the bolder, more exciting choice in that moment. Now, Sinners winning Best Soundtrack over Wicked genuinely shocked me. But at the same time, I'm not upset about it at all. That soundtrack is one of the most beautiful, intentional pieces of work I've seen in a long time. The music isn't just background, it's woven directly into the storytelling. What makes it even more powerful is how deeply it connects to culture and history. The film uses music as a window into its time, showing how genres like country, jazz, and bluegrass were built from the work of Black artists, enslaved people, and freed slaves. Then watching how that music was later repackaged and commercialized adds so much weight to the story. It was bold, meaningful, and absolutely deserved that recognition. So much of that music was taken from those communities and never given the same level of credit or ownership. And seeing that truth acknowledged on such a big stage felt powerful. That's why Sinners winning mattered so much. It's a completely original film, not based on a book, not part of an existing IP, not backed by decades of history. It just showed up as itself and still stood tall. When you compare that to something like Wicked, which has massive institutional backing, Broadway history, and years of cultural dominance, the contrast is wild. And don't get me wrong, I love Wicked. We all know this. But seeing an original story like Sinners break through like that was beautiful. I genuinely hope Sinners picks up Oscar wins too. Honestly, I wanted it to take Best Picture. So fingers crossed, this feels like the beginning of something big. Now we have to talk about Album of the Year. Bad Bunny winning was so deserved it almost hurt. That album gives me chills every time. It's such a vivid window into Puerto Rican culture, into childhood memories, nostalgia, and the feeling of missing home as life moves faster and faster. What makes it even more special is how intentional he is. As his career explodes globally, he never lets go of where he comes from. He uses his platform to show people what it truly means to be Puerto Rican, with pride, honesty, and love. That representation matters. I also love how fearless he is with self-expression. The gender-fluid fashion, the confidence, the refusal to fit into a box. He's such a strong role model, especially right now. And with everything happening politically, especially with Donald Trump back in the conversation, this win felt even more meaningful. Seeing culture, identity, and authenticity celebrated like that gave me real hope. Now, one of the biggest surprises of the night for me was Lady Gaga not taking home any of the Big Four awards. That genuinely shocked me. This album was incredible. She literally broke the record for the largest concert ever by a female artist with her Brazil performance. Her Coachella set was culture-shifting, generational, the kind of performance people will still reference years from now. The Abracadabra performances alone were insane. The visuals, the theatrical storytelling, the commitment, everything was on another level. And Die with a Smile has been one of the biggest songs of the past 2 years. Even though it dropped earlier, it's technically part of this album cycle, which made the snub feel even more surprising. That said, I can still admit this was truly Bad Bunny's year. Completely. And I'm so happy about it. This was his first ever Album of the Year win, and it was historic. The first Spanish-language album to ever take that award. That matters. That's culture moving forward in real time. And this is exactly why I keep saying the Grammys are a time capsule. They reflect what's happening in the world. The excitement around Latin culture, the desire to uplift these artists, it's not random. It's happening during a moment where those communities are under real pressure and scrutiny, and seeing them celebrated on the biggest stages feels powerful. Moments like this make me feel hopeful. Like more people are paying attention than we realize. And honestly, this feels like the start of a wild year for music. A real turning point. I cannot wait to see what comes next. That's my Grammys recap. Let me know if there was anything you wanted me to talk about that I didn't cover. I'll be jumping into the comments. Thank you so much for watching and rocking with me. This still doesn't feel real. And if you want more unfiltered music takes, culture breakdowns, and moments like this, make sure you subscribe to the Juicy Reel channel right now. You do not want to miss what's coming next. I'll see you very soon.
Wasn't political. Bad Bunny's halftime show.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
Well, it resonated. It was smart because it wasn't preaching. It was showing. It was demonstrating and displaying. This is what a community is. And people who did not speak Spanish and have never been to Puerto Rico, they saw that elderly woman serving a drink and the kids dancing with their grandmas, and it was intergenerational, and it was a reminder of what Dr. King called the beloved community can look like.
8 days ago, Bad Bunny stepped onto the biggest stage in America and made history. For the first time ever, a Super Bowl halftime show was performed entirely in Spanish by a solo artist. What happened next? Total chaos. Congressional investigations started popping up. Wild conspiracy theories flooded social media, and even Barack Obama stepped in with a response. All of that, over just 13 minutes on stage. It all went down at Super Bowl 60, held at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara. On paper, the headline should have been the Seattle Seahawks defeating the New England Patriots 29-13. But let's be real, nobody was arguing about touchdowns the next morning. The internet was on fire over halftime. Born Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, Bad Bunny had been announced back in September 2025 after the NFL teamed up with Apple Music and Rock Nation to lock him in. The moment the news dropped, the reactions were loud. Some people celebrated, others questioned it, and he made his stance crystal clear. This is for my people, my culture, and our history. That wasn't just promo talk. That was a statement. And the timing? Unreal. Just 1 week before kickoff, Bad Bunny made history again. On February 1st, he became the first artist recording exclusively in Spanish to win Album of the Year at the Grammy Awards for his album, Debí Tirar Más Fotos. That win wasn't just a trophy, it was momentum, it was power, and it set the stage for a halftime show that would shake the culture way beyond football. When he grabbed that Grammy, he didn't just say thank you and walk off. During his speech at the Grammy Awards, he dedicated the win to all the people that had to leave their homeland, their country, to follow their dreams. That line hit deep. And a week later, that exact message was woven straight into his Super Bowl performance. It wasn't random. It was intentional. It was personal. Now here's where it gets interesting. The NFL didn't lock in Bad Bunny right away. Early talks reportedly included Taylor Swift, but she turned it down. Why? She didn't want to headline a game where her fiancé, Travis Kelce, could potentially be on the field. That would have been a media circus on another level. Even after the Kansas City Chiefs were knocked out of the postseason on December 14th, 2025, the wheels were already turning behind the scenes. Big names were floating everywhere. Lady Gaga, Mariah Carey, Justin Bieber, Drake, even Metallica was reportedly in the mix. The rumors were wild. But once Bad Bunny secured the spot, there was no turning back. When the performance finally aired, a massive 128.2 million viewers tuned in on NBC. That made it the fourth most watched halftime show ever. Only Kendrick Lamar's 2025 show with 133.5 million, Michael Jackson's legendary 1993 performance with 133.4 million, and Usher's 2024 set with 129.3 million pulled bigger numbers. That's elite company. Love it or hate it, those 13 minutes locked Bad Bunny into halftime history forever. The TV numbers were huge, but YouTube went even crazier. In just 24 hours, Bad Bunny's halftime show became the most watched Super Bowl performance ever on the platform. That's not just hype, that's domination. The stage? It wasn't just a stage, it was Puerto Rico brought straight to California. He built a full Puerto Rican village right there in the stadium. At the center stood La Casita, a traditional-style home that anchored the whole production. The show opened in a sugarcane field, with backup dancers dressed like field workers, creating a powerful visual right from the first second. No warm-up, no easing in, just statement after statement. Then the set shifted into a marketplace scene inspired by La Placita, surrounded by palm trees and island vegetation. The details were sharp. The vibe felt authentic. Dressed head to toe in white, rocking a jersey with Ocasio and the number 64 on it, he made sure his name, and his roots, were front and center. He ran through hits like Titi Me Preguntó, Baile Inolvidable, DTMF, Monaco, and Yo Perreo Sola, keeping the energy high the entire 13 minutes. Then things leveled up. Lady Gaga joined him for a Latin-inspired version of Die With a Smile, her Grammy-winning collab with Bruno Mars. And out of nowhere, Ricky Martin stepped in with an acoustic version of Lo Mejor de Mi Vida Eres Tú. That crowd reaction? Insane. The cameos didn't stop there. Pedro Pascal, Jessica Alba, Cardi B, Karol G. They all popped up throughout the show, adding star power every few minutes. And when he performed El Apagón, his song touching on gentrification in Puerto Rico, the symbolism got even heavier. At one point, an actual wedding ceremony happened right there on stage, confirmed by his team. That wasn't acting. That was real. And in one emotional moment, he handed his Grammy statuette to a young boy in the crowd, passing the torch in front of millions. Every minute had meaning. Every second was loaded. Plus, the emotional moment got even deeper. A child actor named Lincoln Fox Ramadan came on stage, styled to look like a young Bad Bunny. Same energy, same vibe. It looked like he was handing the Grammy to his younger self. That image hit hard, like a full-circle moment playing out live in front of millions. Then came the symbolism. He climbed an electrical pole, a direct reference to Puerto Rico's ongoing power grid struggles. No words needed. The message was loud. At another moment, a football with the words, "Together we are America," got spiked into the ground. Boom. Clear statement. On screen, the words, "The only thing more powerful than hate is love," flashed across the stadium. That wasn't subtle. That was bold. The Puerto Rican flag was painted across his back while dancers waved flags from nations all across North, Central, and South America. He even listed more than 20 countries during the performance, uniting the whole hemisphere in one breath. And in one of the only English lines of the night, he shouted, "God bless America." That line? Strategic, loud, impossible to ignore. The numbers backed it up too. Apple Music reported his streams jumped 7 times after the show. DTMF, Bail Inolvidable, and TT Me Pregunto shot to the top as his most played tracks almost instantly. That halftime boost was real. And here's the twist that shocked people. Despite the massive production, the millions spent on staging, and the cultural weight of it all, Bad Bunny reportedly earned around $1,000 per day under his Screen Actors Guild union scale contract. The National Football League covered the production costs, which can run into the millions. So while the show looked like a billion-dollar moment, his direct paycheck was surprisingly modest. But everything changed on Monday evening, February 10th. The tone of the conversation shifted fast. And not in the way anyone expected. Then the political firestorm exploded. Andy Ogles from Tennessee sent a formal letter to the House Energy and Commerce Committee, blasting the halftime show as pure smut brazenly aired on national television. He accused the performance of crossing serious lines, pointing to dancers moving provocatively and moments where Bad Bunny grabbed his crotch on stage. Ogles claimed the lyrics promoted unspeakable depravities and even gave him a new nickname, Raunchy Rabbit. That wasn't subtle. That was a direct attack. He doubled down saying being here is a privilege and argued the show proved Puerto Rico should never become a U.S. state. That comment? It set social media off instantly. Meanwhile, Randy Fine from Florida called the halftime show illegal. He claimed that if those same lyrics had been performed in English on live television, the broadcast would have been cut and massive fines would have followed. According to him, the language barrier shielded the performance from consequences. That claim added even more heat to the debate. A formal complaint was also sent to the Federal Communications Commission, demanding strong action, including potential fines and even broadcast license reviews targeting the National Football League, NBC, and Bad Bunny himself. The pressure wasn't just online anymore, it was official. Then Mark Alford appeared on television saying, "We are still investigating this." He admitted he doesn't speak fluent Spanish, but still described the lyrics as very disturbing. That statement raised eyebrows fast. Critics questioned how you can fully judge lyrics in a language you don't understand. By Monday night, this wasn't just about music. It had turned into a full political showdown playing out on national TV. But here's the part that flipped the whole narrative. The Federal Communications Commission reviewed the performance and ruled that Bad Bunny did not violate any broadcast rules. That's right. No fines, no penalties, no shutdowns. Songs like Titi Me Preguntó, Monaco, and Zafaera were cleaned up for the Super Bowl stage. The explicit lyrics people associate with those tracks, they were removed. The raw club versions never made it to live TV. Big difference. After reviewing everything, the FCC decided there were no violations and shelved further scrutiny. Case closed. And when you zoom out, halftime outrage isn't new at all. Kendrick Lamar's 2025 halftime show pulled in 125 complaints. Rihanna's 2023 performance sparked 103 complaints, with some viewers even arguing that twerking should be treated like dropping the F-bomb on air. And remember the 2020 show with Shakira and Jennifer Lopez? That one racked up more than 1,300 complaints, and Bad Bunny actually made a cameo during that show too. So controversy at halftime? That's practically tradition. Now here's another twist. While all this was happening, there was a completely different halftime event airing the same night. Turning Point USA hosted what they called the All-American Halftime Show, headlined by Kid Rock, alongside Brantley Gilbert, Lee Brice, and Gabby Barrett. That lineup was announced on February 4th, just days before the game. So while one stage sparked political headlines and FCC letters, another stage was pushing a totally different vibe at the exact same time. 2 halftime shows, 2 Americas, one massive culture clash playing out in real time. The alternative event leaned heavy into a faith, family, and freedom theme and streamed live across YouTube, Rumble, and other platforms. Turning Point USA claimed massive numbers, saying they pulled in over 5 million simultaneous viewers across platforms. According to them, more than 5 million were on their main YouTube channel alone, nearly 1 million on another channel, plus hundreds of thousands elsewhere. Big claims. Big energy. Some reports even pushed that number to 6.1 million concurrent streams. And now, the replay reportedly sits somewhere around 19 to 20 million total views on YouTube. On paper, that sounds like a breakout moment. Then things took a sharp turn. Candace Owens stepped in and lit the match. She previously worked as communications director for Turning Point USA from 2017 to 2019 and had been close with the group's founder, Charlie Kirk, who passed away in September 2025 at just 31 years old. Since his passing, Owens has been publicly clashing with his widow, Erica Kirk, who now leads the organization. So there's already tension there. Between February 8th and 9th, Owens posted explosive claims accusing Turning Point USA of inflating their numbers. She alleged they paid platform advertisers and influencers to make it look like they shattered records. That's a serious accusation. She even shared a screenshot showing roughly 6,000 live viewers, 667 likes, and 175 comments about an hour after the show ended. Her message? Blunt and straight to the point. She basically suggested the record-breaking narrative didn't match the visible engagement. And once that screenshot hit social media, the debate got even louder. Now, the conversation wasn't just about culture or politics anymore. It was about credibility. And that made the whole situation even messier. Then Candace didn't slow down. She went even harder. On a later podcast, Candace Owens said, The problem with people who have a lot of money they didn't earn is that they tend to have no idea how stuff actually works. That line alone had people reacting fast. She followed it up with more detailed claims about the alternative halftime show tied to Turning Point USA. According to Owens, the show wasn't even fully live. She alleged it was pre-recorded 2 weeks before the Super Bowl at a Georgia soundstage. She claimed there were only about 180 people in the audience, and that they were paid $250 each to be there. She also said performers did 3 to 5 takes of every song and that camera tricks were used to make the crowd look way bigger than it really was. Those are strong accusations. She added that some attendees supposedly didn't fully understand what they were signing up for, and that many of them actually liked Bad Bunny. That twist made the whole situation even more layered. But here's where it got complicated. Owens admitted she had mixed feelings about Bad Bunny himself. At first, she said, "I hate both options," criticizing the idea of a halftime show without a word of English spoken. Yet later, she gave him props. She praised his stage design, calling it pretty cool, and one of the cooler ones I've seen in a long time. Her exact words? "I loved that it looked like a little pueblo," and she said it felt very authentic to him and how he grew up. That's a big shift in tone. Then, on February 14th, 2026, the conversation leveled up again. Barack Obama entered the chat during an interview published by YouTuber Brian Tyler Cohen. Obama's take cut straight through the chaos. He said about Bad Bunny's performance, "It wasn't political, it resonated. It was smart because it wasn't preaching. It was showing, it was demonstrating and displaying this is what a community is." That statement shifted the vibe completely. Suddenly, it wasn't just noise and outrage. It became a bigger conversation about culture, identity, and what America actually looks like on its biggest stage. He didn't stop there. Barack Obama went deeper, saying that even people who don't speak Spanish and have never stepped foot in Puerto Rico could still understand what they were seeing. He pointed to the elderly woman serving a drink on stage, the kids dancing with their grandmothers, that intergenerational energy. He said it was a reminder of what Dr. King called the beloved community. Not perfect, not polished, but connected. Obama also acknowledged the complexity. He said, "Which is not perfect, and it's messy sometimes, and I guarantee you not all those lyrics were probably correct, and if you translated them, you know, people are complicated." That wasn't blind praise. That was nuance, but he emphasized there was a feeling of, all right, there's room for everybody here. That line hit different. The interview with Brian Tyler Cohen didn't just stick to halftime talk. They also touched on recent events in Minnesota tied to immigration enforcement. Obama described certain behavior as deeply concerning and dangerous, making it clear he sees bigger issues playing out beyond entertainment. He also reacted to a viral video involving him and Michelle Obama, calling the current climate a clown show happening across social media and television. He pointed out that some people who once valued decorum and respect for public office now seem to have dropped that standard completely. That critique was sharp. As soon as those clips hit the internet, reactions exploded. Supporters praised his focus on unity and community. Critics pushed back. The timeline turned into a battlefield of opinions. And when you step back, it's wild. A 13-minute performance, mostly in Spanish, turned into a full-blown national debate about identity, language, culture, and who belongs on America's biggest stage. That halftime show didn't just entertain, it exposed where the country stands right now. Ricky Martin, who joined the performance, summed up the emotion afterward, saying, "They need to give me several hours to even begin processing this. Tsunami of emotions." That wasn't hype, That was raw. And whether people loved the show or criticized it, that emotional wave was real. This wasn't just flashing lights and hit songs. It turned into a full-blown cultural moment. Questions started flying. Who gets the spotlight? Whose language is acceptable on the biggest stage in America? What does being American even look like today? That halftime show forced people to confront it. 6 days later, when Barack Obama weighed in, he offered one possible answer: make room for everybody. Simple idea. Powerful message. If you've made it this far, you already know this wasn't just about music. It was about culture.
Really wrong, like that Kid Rock concert.
Oh my God! Help! He's having a heart attack! Is anyone here a doctor?
No fucking way someone's a doctor here.
Bad Bunny just delivered one of the most politically explosive Super Bowl halftime shows we've ever seen. It wasn't just music, it was a statement. For the first time in history, the entire halftime show was performed fully in Spanish. And it didn't just make noise, it shattered records and became the most viewed halftime performance of all time. That alone had people talking, but the political tension around it made everything even louder.
You always have to be proud about who you are and being yourself.
For years, Bad Bunny has openly criticized ICE and the Trump administration, and that history made this moment feel loaded. Some conservative voices were so upset that they even pushed an alternate all-American halftime show idea featuring Kid Rock as a way to counter the NFL's choice.
God bless America!
They suck and we'll win.
That's how heated this got. But here's where it gets wild. Bad Bunny didn't just perform hits. He packed the stage with subtle symbolism and layered messages that many believe were aimed straight at political power. Every detail felt intentional. Every lyric carried weight. This wasn't random entertainment, it felt strategic. To really understand why this performance sparked so much debate, we need to understand who Bad Bunny is and why his voice carries power. He's been compared to Drake, with some even arguing he's surpassed him globally. And he's proudly from Puerto Rico, which matters. Puerto Rico has been a U.S. territory since 1898, a complicated political reality that adds serious weight to everything he represents on that stage. This is where the real tension kicks in. When Super Bowl officials announced that Bad Bunny would headline the 2026 halftime show, the reaction was instant and intense. In September 2025, the news dropped. A Puerto Rican artist who performs almost entirely in Spanish would take center stage at the biggest American sporting event of the year. That alone had people debating nonstop. Now, looking at his global numbers and sold-out stadiums, the choice makes total sense. He's one of the biggest artists on the planet. And let's be honest, music doesn't need translation to hit hard. The US already proved that with Despacito and Gangnam Style blowing up everywhere. You don't have to understand every word to feel the energy. During the announcement, Bad Bunny said, "What I'm feeling goes beyond myself. It's for those who came before me and ran countless yards so I could come in and score a touchdown. This is for my people, my culture, and our history." That line sounded powerful at the time, but looking back, it almost feels like a warning shot. Here's where it gets political. Bad Bunny has openly criticized the Trump administration in the past, and he hasn't been shy about where he stands. When he later announced his tour dates, fans noticed something major. There were no planned stops in the continental United States. In interviews, he explained the decision came from concerns that some of his fans could feel unsafe amid discussions around mass deportation policies. After the Super Bowl news went public, he hinted at the shift on Twitter, writing, "I've been thinking about it these days, and after discussing it with my team, I think I'll just do one date in the United States." That message hit like a bombshell and turned a halftime show into a full-blown political conversation. Bad Bunny hasn't exactly stayed quiet about the United States either. Back in 2017, after Hurricane Maria tore through Puerto Rico, he openly criticized what he saw as a slow and inadequate humanitarian response. While families were struggling without power and basic supplies, he used his platform to call attention to it. At a hurricane relief benefit concert, he even wore a shirt aimed at then-President Donald Trump that read, "Presidente, are you a Twitter user or a president?" That moment spread fast and showed he wasn't afraid to speak up. But his activism didn't stop at federal politics. In 2019, Bad Bunny hit the streets alongside artists like Ricky Martin and hundreds of thousands of Puerto Ricans, demanding accountability from their own government. Over 500,000 people protested corruption and called for the governor's resignation. That wasn't just symbolic, it was historic. In 2022, one of his music videos spotlighted issues like unreliable utilities, gentrification in San Juan, and beach privatization. These themes connect to larger conversations about identity, control, and colonial history, topics he frequently weaves into both his lyrics and interviews. And yes, some of those same themes showed up again during his halftime performance. Fast forward to the 2024 U.S. presidential election cycle, and Bad Bunny once again stepped into the conversation. He shared clips of Kamala Harris criticizing Trump, especially after comedian Tony Hinchcliffe made a joke about Puerto Rico during a rally at Madison Square Garden. That post got massive attention, and beyond politics, he's also known for LGBTQ+ advocacy. In 2020, during an appearance on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, he honored Alexa Luciano, a transgender woman from Puerto Rico whose death had shaken the community. He used that spotlight to push for respect and awareness, showing that his platform isn't just about music, it's about people too. He stepped on stage wearing a black skirt and a white shirt that read, "They killed Alexa, not a man in a skirt." That outfit alone sent shockwaves through social media. It wasn't subtle, it was direct, emotional, and impossible to ignore. Some people praised him for using his platform to speak up. Others were furious. Either way, everyone was talking. That same year, Bad Bunny continued showing support for the LGBTQ+ community by appearing in drag in one of his music videos. He didn't just hint at support, he made bold creative choices that challenged expectations. For some fans, that made him fearless. For critics, it crossed a line they weren't ready for. There were other moments that stirred controversy too. At a New York Yankees game, he and his friends did not stand during the performance of "God Bless America." That sparked backlash online, with some accusing him of being disrespectful. Supporters argued it was personal expression. Critics called it unpatriotic. The divide grew even sharper. All of this built up to what became one of the most debated halftime show selections ever. When it was announced he would headline the Super Bowl, even Donald Trump weighed in publicly. Several Republican politicians echoed similar reactions, some claiming they didn't know who he was, others saying the NFL made a bad call. The culture clash was loud. One major topic tied to all of this is U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, commonly known as ICE. ICE operates under the Department of Homeland Security and says its mission is to enforce immigration laws and protect national security. However, the agency has faced strong criticism from many activists and public figures. During the Obama administration, ICE publicly emphasized focusing on individuals accused of serious crimes. Under the Trump administration, policies expanded enforcement priorities to include a broader range of undocumented individuals. That shift became a huge flashpoint in national debate and Bad Bunny has been one of the artists openly critical of how those policies impact immigrant communities. With the expanded enforcement push, things didn't just stay tense, they exploded. Beginning in December 2025, Operation Metro Surge brought thousands of federal agents from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and related agencies into Minnesota, especially in Minneapolis and St. Paul. People reported aggressive raids at workplaces, houses of worship, schools, and neighborhoods, sparking fear and outrage in immigrant communities and beyond. Arrests of both undocumented immigrants and U.S. citizens didn't calm things. It fueled massive protests that sometimes put demonstrators and police head-to-head. Then, in early January 2026, everything shifted into national crisis mode. On January 7th, ICE agent Jonathan Ross shot and killed 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, a U.S. citizen in Minneapolis during enforcement activity. Good had dropped her young child off at school and stopped to monitor agents in her neighborhood. Witnesses say there was no immediate threat when shots rang out, killing her almost instantly. Thousands protested her death, and police arrests followed as emotions boiled over across the city and country. Just a few weeks later, on January 24th, a second fatal shooting rocked the region. Federal agents killed 37-year-old ICU nurse Alex Jeffrey Pretty during a separate confrontation tied to the same enforcement surge. Officials claimed Pretty approached officers with a firearm, but video and family accounts muddied that narrative, showing him holding a phone and trying to help someone who had been knocked down by agents moments before. His death intensified outrage and drew even wider protests demanding accountability. By January's end, the Twin Cities and other U.S. cities